Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so thrilled to have on the show an award-winning singer, songwriter, and entertainer, Brandy Clark. Brandy, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
You know, I feel like I know you already just from seeing you at venues around town. And now, you know, you're headlining the Ryman on Wednesday, October 25th. How exciting is that?
It's so exciting. You know, the Ryman, it's a special venue. I would say to me, but I think to most everybody, one of the when I first came to Nashville to visit and see if I wanted to live there, the Ryman was one of the first places that I went to. The first time I played the Opry was at the Ryman. I mean, that's so fortunate.
Right.
And I've opened, you know, for other artists there. I've played, you know, I just did ACM Honors there and Americana Fest. But this is the first time that I've actually headlined it. And so it's a bucket list.
How incredible. Well, and speaking of bucket list, and I've got to kid you about this, you know, 4 albums in, and then you do the self-titled album.
Mm-hmm. Well,
usually that's like kind of reverse order. Usually it's like that first one, but you know, how did this come about? You got to explain it to us.
So a couple of ways. I think, you know, the way this album started was Brandi Carlile actually approached me about, her and I had worked together on a couple of tracks, and she approached me about making a whole record. And she said, I see it as your return to the Northwest, which was very intriguing to me because I've lived in Nashville for 25 years, but maybe 26 now, a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm from Washington State, not very far from where Brandi grew up and still lives. And so I'd never made an album with the intention of talking about where I'm from specifically. And so I went up there, wrote some songs. One of them was a song Northwest that's on the record.
Right.
And I had this grand idea after finishing that song to call the record Northwest. But every time I would tell somebody that, they would say, now, you know, that's Kim and Kanye's child, right? And so the first time I heard it, I thought, you know, who cares?
Right.
About the 4th time, I was like, okay, we need something different. And really what it came down to was it is a return home to me in a lot of ways, not just home to literal home, Northwest, but also sonically. It was a very stripped back record. And my whole self is in it. And there wasn't one song that to me would have made a great album title. And so we started kicking the idea of self-titling it. And the label loved that. They said, oh, you know, you haven't done that. And if you're going to do it, now's kind of the last chance. And so, you know, and I think it's kind of a reintroduction of me to me. You know, there were a lot of things about making this record that made me fall back in love with making music in a way that I needed to.
Well, and you brought up the sparseness, and to me, I enjoy that because it really lets your voice shine. The instrumentation doesn't overshadow the lyrics. You know, like we were talking before we started the interview on it, Brandy, Dear Insecurity, to where it is such an honest, you know, I mean, you're just sharing your heart and everything in this. And even the first track on the album with Derek Trucks, once again, I mean, you know, at first when I started listening to the album, I'm like going, is this going to be kind of like one of those brooding bluegrass albums to where it's, you know, it's like going all of the most horrendous things that you can come up with, but it's not. It's just, it's kind of like I would say an emotional roller coaster with this.
Oh, I love that. That's always, I mean, whenever you say roller coaster, that's a great word to use with me. I always want a record to feel like a roller coaster. I want a live show to feel like a roller coaster. You know, right when you hit here, the bottom drops out. Like that's the goal. So I love that.
And I think you achieved it, but and working with, you know, Brandy, you know, on this, you know, what guidance and everything, because once again, she is on, you know, the song Dear Insecurity, you know, how did, you know, having her, you know, produce this with you, how did that kind of change your direction on the whole album compared to your past albums, which have done incredibly well also?
Well, you know, I think there's a couple of things. One, you know, working with another recording artist was a different challenge to me. And I'm working with a recording artist who, in my opinion, is one of the greatest singers alive. And I think a producer tends to lead with their instrument, whatever that is. You know, some producers were drummers, some were guitar players. not a lot were singers. And Brandy is such a great singer. And so she could ask me for things vocally that I don't think a whole lot, maybe no other producer could ask for. And then also, I feel like the biggest thing she did for me was get to the heart of who I am. And I think that comes from being a recording artist. Like, you know, she really would ask me, you know, are you really sure you want to say this? She asked me to change some lyrics because they didn't apply to me specifically. And that was a big deal to me. And I really think it was a really cool step also. Like, like the song Buried is the song in particular. There was a line, I'll read Lonesome Dove, I'll start doing yoga. And Brandy was like, I just don't like that yoga line. And I said, well, why not? And she said, because I just don't believe you do yoga. I said, well, I don't. And she said, well, then why are you putting it in a song? And so those kinds of questions, I think those only can really come from another recording artist. So that was a very different journey for me than other records I've made.
Well, and I think also, you know, like we were talking about it too, Brandy, the intimacy of this album, it just feels, you know, once again, you know, like you're having a conversation with a very close friend and you're just sharing it all, you know, but I think it's also, I mean, for you, you know, performing this out, and also it's considered one of the best albums of 2023 already. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But you know, it's going to have, I mean, it's going to be hard for you to go back through your other albums that people have, you know, the hit songs they want to hear, they're used to seeing you performing, because I think you need to perform this whole album. And so it's like picking out which songs you're going to add into the set.
Yeah, well, you know, we do most of this album in the set. So that's a pretty lucky thing. And you said something that I haven't heard, which you said you feel like this album was me having a conversation with a really close friend. Through this, Brandi Carlile and I became great friends. We were friends when it started, but more acquaintance friends. We became real friends through this. And I think that that's what you hear, because she forced me to have a very deep, intimate conversation with her. So I just love that that's the way it came out. But these songs are really fun to perform live. And because it's sparse, it's an easy record to perform live, you know, so you can do it. Because most times I'm in a 4-piece, myself, a guitar player, a bass player, and a drummer, and we can cover most of this record that way. And so that's exciting.
Well, and also having the guest, you know, the incredible guest that you ended up with on this album, to where I could certainly see, you know, with the touring and everything else, to where, you know, you're in the town that they're in and they're on tour and they just pop on stage.
Yes.
Which is
I'm
never
hoping
a bad
for
thing.
that. Yeah. Yes. I'm really hoping for a lot of that. And so you mentioned Derek Trucks. I would, I don't know, maybe not an arm, but I would give up something to have him come out and guest on Ain't Enough Rocks at a show.
You know, and I love that song though, but also to me, once again, listening to the mix, it's like, I like the banjo in the background. You know, it's like, and I think, you know, like we were talking about Dear Insecurity, to where, you know, it kind of had that big orchestration feel to it in opening up kind of, I'm like going, well, that's a neat way to bring you into this. And then it really feels, once again, very close, like friends talking, like we were talking about, to where, you know, certainly I think all of us, you know, with whatever we do, and particularly, you know, music artists struggle with insecurity. And so it's kind of personifying insecurity, going, Dear Insecurity, you know, it's like, let's talk, you know?
Oh, you know, we just put out a video. I think the video came out October 10th. And what I love about the video, for me, when I watch it, I wasn't there for all of the filming. I was there for my portion. And because everybody was filmed separately, and with myself, there are 5 characters. And when I watch that video, I find myself in every character, and it spans, you know, it's men, women, black, white. There's a drag queen, you know, it's young, it's older, but I think all of us, we have so much more in common than not. And insecurities are one of our biggest commonalities, I really believe.
And it's part of that human experience though, but I think for you to bring that up in the song and then have it with the video and everything else, you know, and just all of the, you know, I just love all the textures, like you said, sparse, but I think they serve the song. I've got to ask you, obviously, you know, with this big Ryman show, instrumentation wise, are you changing it up? Are there going to be like more clothing and instrument changes? How do you think you're going to work this?
Well, for the Ryman show, we are doing, like I said, we're usually a 4-piece. We're going to be a 5-piece that night, which is great. And the only reason we're not a 5-piece all the time is bus space.
I get it. There's only so much room.
Yeah. And but I also like being a smaller band. It forces everybody to cover more.
Right.
We'll have an extra player at the Ryman who's an incredible player, utility player, mostly steel, but that's where you'll get the banjo and some of the other elements that you won't get on any other show of this tour.
Yeah, but how incredible, because every time I've seen you live here in Nashville, and certainly, you've lived here, like you said, over 25 years, you feel like a local, even though, raised up around Washington, as you mentioned, with the Northwest. It's like, I always think of you as a local, because it's like, I'll just be in some, it's like going, oh yeah, well, Brandy's playing. It's like, okay, I'm going.
I love that.
But I mean, I think that, what a powerful album this is. And I can certainly see why this is being, lauded as one of the best of 2023. I just love the songs on here are just so, meaningful. And I think you can tell they're meaningful to you. And I think that, Brandi Carlile helped bring that out with you, but also it's your songwriting and your voice. And your voice sounds amazing on this album.
Thank you. You mentioned the songs. I think if I got nothing else from the process of making this record, this story was what I needed. When I work with a producer, I've never worked with a producer on a full album that I wrote songs with.
Yeah.
So they're always new to the songs. And I like that because I'm so close to the songs that it's somebody they're the first listener. So, so what I usually do is I get it down to, 18 to 24 songs that myself, management, label has whittled down. And I always have a few that are like must-haves for me. But, I really need a producer to help me round it out. And so I gave those songs to Brandy, just like I have everybody else I've worked with. And her choices surprised me. And I asked her, I said, wow, I love your choices, but why did you choose the songs you chose? And she said, well, they were all great songs, but I chose the songs that I felt like you wrote in your bedroom.
Wow.
That was a light bulb moment for me, because I've been writing songs professionally and recordings, for a long time and making records for the last 10 years. And you can start to feel like, what do I have left to say? Does anybody care what I have to say? When she said that, it re-inspired me in a way that I haven't been inspired in a long time, because it's really challenged me. Okay, from here on out, only write the songs I'd write in my bedroom. Right. Those are the ideas to chase down. And that was just a gift, I feel like, that she gave me in making this record.
Well, and I think that's a friendship gift. And I think to me, it's impressive, once again, coming off the Grammy Awards and everything, how, like you said, you guys knew each other, you were, associated, but weren't friends. But then I think that certainly the friendship shines through in the creation of this album. And like you said, to where, writing in your bedroom, it's like, okay, how much more personal can you get? It's like, it's like writing in a diary or a journal, to where it's like going, okay, no one's going to read this. It's like, this is just me in this journal, and but it's just all cream then. It's like, it's like we've talked about, some albums, and not knocking it, to where, you kind of feel like there's album filler. It's like going, okay, here's the great songs, and this will fill up the rest of the album. And I feel like on this self-titled album on it, Brandy, there's no filler. It's not like, you didn't like, well, we need to put some rice in here because we need filler. There's no filler.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment. So thank you.
Well, I want to make sure for our viewers, Brandy, that, to come see you at the Ryman, this Wednesday, and obviously for your tour, for the music video still rolling out, everything about the new album. Where should they go for website, social media, everything Brandy Clark?
The Brandi Clark. All of my, I think my website's maybe Brandi Clark Music, but the rest of it, like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the Brandi Clark. And if I'm wrong about that website, you can get to that website through one of those social media channels.
And then you're going to have like a journal added into the merch also for like Dear Insecurity, and that'll be like on the top of the journal.
That's a great idea, actually. It's a really good idea.
I think everybody's going to want to buy one of those after listening to this song and after listening to your full album. It's like going, yeah, I've got some journaling to do here.
Mhm.
Well, congratulations, Brandi. I can't wait to see you live again, and especially headlining the Ryman Auditorium, the Mother Church here in Nashville, and your great tour. And what an incredible album. Our viewers, however you consume music, I certainly suggest you download, listen to the entire album of Brandy Clark. You're going to love it all as much as I have. Brandi, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Eric.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.